Welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, April 27, 2016. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. Amendments to the value-added tax that have resulted in the reclassification of a number of goods from the zero-rated and being exempt listings to the standard-rated 15% VAT will take effect on Sunday, May 1, 2016. This will affect commerce as well as consumers differently, and Senior Assistant Controller at the Inland Revenue Department, Howard Lewis, is calling on businesses to comply with the new price measures. Lewis explains that while some of the items such as salt, baking powder and yeast will now carry the 15% VAT rate, businesses should ensure that they do not increase their prices on items that are VAT exempt, such as bread.
Means VAT-free, or what we call exempt. So when you as the consumer go to the bakery and buy bread, the seller cannot charge you any VAT on the sale of that bread. However, the bakery producer may ask, how can I recover my VAT that I paid on my yeast, my baking powder, etc.? What any business would normally do is to assess their cost of production. And if VAT is considered to be a cost of production in this aspect, because the bakery is not VAT registered, so he cannot what we call have the normal set-off mechanism where you charge a consumer VAT on the sale of the bread, because the sale of the bread is exempt, but he has to pay VAT on his inputs.
Lewis says though some business owners may be tempted to engage in price gouging because of the perceived increase in overall production cost base on the items being VATed, they should desist from such action.
So how can the producer recover that cost? He has to incur that, he has to basically embed that cost into his cost of operation, and then see whether or not over his production, whether or not his price of bread will rise, would remain the same, or would fall. I cannot tell a bakery producer whether or not the price at which he is going to sell his bread come May 1st, 2016, that price will rise, because I do not know what is the mix of his cost of operation. Because at this point in time, oil price is falling, so that may be a major input saving for him. There's really no VAT on flour, so that remains zero rated. So in essence, the bakery producer has to assess his overall cost of operation and do not necessarily increase the price of bread just because VAT has gone on his inputs. He has to look at his overall cost and see whether or not his overall cost of operation has increased to decide whether or not he's going to increase.
Another Senior Assistant Controller at the Inland Revenue Department, Judy Maxman, is encouraging the public to ensure they comply and pay VAT, as this brings in returns for the state.
The introduction of VAT, I think it's a fair measure, it's a fair tax, yes, and it covers everybody. Would bear the burden, everybody, because we have to spend. We have to eat, so we have to spend. So I don't think it's any unfair tax. It's a reasonable tax, and we must all learn to embrace it, because in the long run it will be beneficial to us, because we need roads, we need schools, we have a lot that we need, so we need to pay our VAT.
Some of the zero-rated goods that will become taxable at the standard rate of 15% on May 1st, 2016 are table and cooking butter, brown sugar, packaged rice for retail sale, whole chicken legs and chicken parts except chicken back, neck and wings, as well as turkey back, neck and wings. The VAT-exempt goods that will also be made taxable at the 15% VAT rate include salt, cooking oil except coconut oil, shortening, baking powder, yeast, lentil and pigeon peas. On the 16th of April this year, the Republic of Ecuador experienced a 7.8 magnitude earthquake, which took a toll on the nation's infrastructure, its people and their livelihoods. Over 650 people lost their lives. As a show of solidarity to the government and people of Ecuador, A prayer service was held here earlier today at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College Villa campus, where prayers and tributes were made by government officials, religious leaders, as well as representatives of the Ecuadorian student body. In presenting his tribute, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said it is heartening to see Vincentians coming together to show solidarity to a great nation. Speaking of SVG's friendship with Ecuador, PM Gonsalves says though it is criticized by other leaders, there exists a stable, growing partnership between both countries.
We're in the community of states of Latin America and the Caribbean. And we are also in the Organization of American States with Ecuador. The way in which the Ecuadorians value our friendship. President Correa accorded me the highest civilian honor that the Ecuadorian government can grant. It was reported in the media. Of course, that's not an honor for Ralph. That's an honor for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And when the highest honor for your country is bestowed on someone, it means that the government and people of Ecuador think very highly of your country. So the world has many complications. What you have to do is to keep your compass straight and clear as you are making friendships wherever the friendships can be made, because we have to make friendships in the world.
Making reference to the work done by the Ecuadorian government in rebuilding of 4 of the 12 bridges here, which were damaged by the 2013 December floods, the Prime Minister outlined that it is now the turn of Vincentians to show appreciation and give back to the people of Ecuador. He announced that SVG made its first contribution of $50,000, which has already been transferred to Ecuador, with plans underway to ensure that additional contributions are made.
Before yesterday, before I traveled, Angie called me and told me that the transfer had taken place and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had informed the government of Ecuador of the transfer of the funds to the account which had been advertised that we should transfer the money to. This is just our initial contribution, and to contribute in additionally, and we want to contribute in other ways. And I'm very happy to see that there is a radiothon this evening, and I'm sure that the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will contribute to the people of Ecuador.
Speaker of the House of Assembly Jomo Thomas thanked persons for their outpouring of compassion so far for the people of Ecuador.
When we think that 600 persons died, that 2,000 were injured, and another 100,000 are displaced, it is true to say that the pain and the sorrow is not only shared, but the pain and sorrow is multiplied. And we want to stand here with you today and say, we share your pain, we share your sorrow. This is a time for us to think about what we can give to Ecuador. And we give you our love, we give you our solidarity, we give you our commitment that the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will do all that we can do to ensure that your lives are made just a little better.
Outlining some of the events which will be held to raise more funds for the devastated country, Director of the SVG Community College, Nigel Scott, called on all Vincentians to join the initiative to provide a helping hand to their fellow brothers and sisters in Ecuador.
I am thankful for the opportunity as Director of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College to say that we truly have a multicultural student body with our 44 Ecuadorian students. I know that our Ecuadorian students have also gone out and they have sought partnerships with other entities to help their own brothers and sisters in Ecuador. This evening we'll have the radio appeal for about 2 hours from 8:30 to 10:30. And I trust that many persons will pledge monies to help the people of Ecuador. There are plans also for a benefit concert To the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, therefore, I ask of you that you stand with us.
Here are some of the performances, tributes and prayers done at today's event.
So Lord, together, collectively, as a nation, St. Vincent and the Grenadines sends a call to heaven today on behalf of Ecuador.
And today we pray for the people, the government of the Republic of Ecuador. We ask today that you would endue them with wisdom, with insight, with creativity. That, Lord, as they seek to come up with strategies and ways to reach out to the people.
God, we pray that you will heal broken hearts today. God, we pray, dear Father, that you will unite families who have been displaced. They don't know, God, where their home has gone. And we pray that you would find, that you will put within their hearts words of comfort for their children.
Families are deprived today of things, but they can never deprive of a friendship with you. As it is written, what a friend we have in Jesus.
How do you handle the guilt of your past? Tell me, how do you deal with the shame? And how can you smile while your heart has been broken and you're filled with pain?
Today, St. Vincent and the Grenadine government, represented by Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, for his unconditional support and solidarity. Thanks to every member of the community college, our professors, and Vincentian people for your concern and emotional support. We have to remember that after the storm always comes the calm, and many positive things bring hope again.
The Lions Club South, in collaboration with the SVG Ad Hoc Committee in Canada, yesterday handed over the keys to a 2-bedroom house to Florentine Spring, who lost her home during the December 2013 floods. SVG Television's Bavin Oliver has the details on the handing over ceremony in this report.
December 2013 floods left many families here without the important factor of shelter, and the Lions Club South, in collaboration with several corporate entities, ensure that one of the affected persons, Miss Florentine Spring, and her 7 children received a brand new home. Speaking at the handing over ceremony in Cumberland on Tuesday, April 26th, Minister of Housing and Informal Settlement Montgomery Daniel stated that his government is committed in ensuring that Vincentians can enjoy the basic right of housing.
We have done great work after the 2013 flood, and not that we have in any way forgotten of Florentine Spring, who is the individual, the family, the person who is getting this house today. The government policy is to ensure that housing, which is a basic need, a basic right, all Vincentians should be well placed with a house. That in itself, we have assisted in materials here for the building of the houses. We have assisted in material distribution because all of the houses were not completely destroyed, and so we assisted with materials to ensure that families can do their own resettlement.
Managing Director of Careers Hazel Inc., Joel Providence, indicated that his company is committed to the welfare of the people of North Leeward and promised Ms. Spring that his company will continue to provide support to her and her family.
At Careers Hazels would like to support you if in any additional work that you want in relation to the house, and we're prepared to donate the cement and the steel for any extension that you would like to have for the project. I would also like to indicate to you that for your 16-year-old daughter who attends the Petit Bedell School, that in the school year beginning in September, we are willing to contribute $1,000 towards her education through the Lions Club South. Hopefully, perhaps we can do the same thing. We're not necessarily making the commitment now, but for the year when she is in Form 5, towards her CXA exams in 2 years' time.
Also speaking at the handing over was Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMA, Harry Prince, who pointed out that the project is an example of what true partnership can accomplish.
So today
in that recognizing that partnership that was established and that resulted in the construction of this house, I could say to the Lions Club South, now I know that you can do this. You can bet your bottom dollar that we will be coming to you again somewhere down the road to do some more. And so we recognize the fact that you have done very well on this one. Whenever we have other persons who are willing to make the financial donation, we will be very happy to come to you and say, take this one, run with it on our behalf. So we thank you, and on behalf of the Spring family, for being there and for this partnership that has resulted in what we see today.
Ms. Spring took the opportunity to thank all involved in providing her with a new home.
Good day to everyone, and I'm thanking you guys for all the great job you have done for me. Thank you.
Local tourism consultant Vera Ann Brayton is of the view that a lot of steps have been missed here in the transition from an agriculture to a tourism-based economy. Speaking on Hits Talk on Sunday, Brayton says this misstep, along with other factors, have somewhat created a hindrance in developing the tourism industry. However, she noted that it is not too late to rectify the situation.
Because it takes a different mindset to move from an agrarian economy to a tourism-dominated economy. We made some missteps, and I believe we have not quite come to grips with those missteps. So what we have now, it's almost a love-hate relationship, I think, we have with tourism. At least that's my assessment of it today. It's almost like a reluctance to accept tourism as the main money earner. This is unfortunately how we have to go. It seems to me that we have too much of a gap between development of tourism and our people. There's a big gap there, which I think has to be dealt with if we are to turn around how we look at tourism and how tourism performs.
Brayton also noted that there has been a failure to carefully plan for tourism development in a holistic manner, and that the public needs to be more involved in the development of the industry.
In the absence of any clear understanding of tourism, any clear policy, any clear strategic plan, things happen, and that's the worst thing that can happen to tourism, is things happen. We now understand that there are so many markets, different types of tourism that we can focus on, and I'm still not convinced. Glenn mentioned yachting. I'm still not convinced that we as a nation understand the importance of the yachting industry. But this sector probably in a very direct way benefit the countries, the local people, but it has to be planned properly. But we have to sit down, come up involving the people of the country, guiding them, of course, what is our policy that everybody understands and accepts, how we going to, or what we want to achieve.
Highlighting the current issue in Canouan involving investors and locals, the tourism consultant said residents must be engaged in any discussion or plans to develop tourism in any community, stating that it is her belief that this is what created the problem on the island in the first place. Brayton further added that when designing policies, there must be clear understanding that what will work for one community may not necessarily work for another.
We cannot take I can't even call it an agrarian society, but a small community, and without involving the community, change the whole lifestyle without involving them and getting their support and understanding both sides, the investors understanding the community understanding the investors. And I don't think it's too late, but we need to understand, because if I mention at this point the global ethics of tourism always talks about the importance of involving the host community. You cannot avoid that. And when you do that at your own peril. And I think we continue to make those missteps. How are we going to achieve? Because we talk about Canouan. The plan for Canouan cannot be the same kind of plan as for St. Vincent. So we can't say we'll have one plan for the whole country. So we have to sit down and do that, and we have to do it very quickly.
Meanwhile, opposition MP for the Southern Grenadines, Terence Oliver, says much more needs to be put into developing SVG's tourism product. Speaking of the possibility of linking ecotourism to the culture of the country, Oliver said attention must be paid to who is the potential audience or who the product is catered to.
Even when we look at the Grenadines and we think only beaches, these islands are also rich historically. Is it only the rich people? Exactly. Are we also catering in terms of our Caribbean neighbors? Because you also have regional tourism and all of that. And I could also bring in the aspect, as you were talking about some of the cultural things. The islands are also rich in regatta. Myro Regatta is weekend coming up. Canoan Regatta is with Santai. You have Beckwith Regatta, you have Easter Valley Union. So you have all these things, but how much do we promote it? And who do we promote it to? And who are we catering for? So are we only looking at one aspect of tourism? Are we trying to get all these things? Because for years now we have been talking about the development of some of these historical sites.
Oliver also noted that the tourism product must not be developed in isolation, as emphasis must also be placed on developing the people as well.
Along with that, you're seeing where we're talking about job creation, maintaining jobs. People have to have land and all of that, because the land is also important to give even the locals a fair chance of developing and advancing themselves. And if they don't have that, the land and the capital, and also the another aspect we need to look at also in discussing this whole thing, what incentives do we give also to the locals to develop their own business and not to be totally dependent on government or somebody for a little job.
Aiming to develop trading opportunities as well as the skill of incentions, 2 projects were launched here yesterday. They include the Economic Partnership Agreement, the EPA, and the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, the CSME, Standby Facility Projects. In his welcoming remarks, Director of Trade Cuthbert Knights outlined some of the objectives of the projects, noting that both projects are important and are expected to produce great benefits once implemented. He noted that a lot of work lies ahead, but advised stakeholders to put in their best efforts as these projects will aid in the country's development.
Our launch today marks only a part of the process of actually leading us to the stage where we can start the implementation. So one of the key deliverables we should see under this project is a services sector strategy, which would help us to better organize our services sector, the drafting of legislations to close some of the gaps that will better ensure our compliance with some of our commitments under the EPA. CSME project, which lies now under the Ministry of Education, this project will not only provide training to enhance skills through our TechVoc institutions, but this project also is intending to provide training to strengthen our accreditation units. And I know that we are quite advanced where these 2 projects are concerned, and very shortly we should bring ourselves at the stage of implementation.
Presenting an overview of the EPA project, Project Coordinator Okolo John Patrick noted that the agreement offers significant trading opportunities for the country's businesses, with work already started in seeking consultants to provide legislative drafting and service strategy and action plans.
And we actually shortlisted 3 consultants for the legislative drafting. We are presently looking at the contract, which should be signed soon. And with respect to the services sector strategy, yesterday was the deadline for the request for proposals. Call-down facility will be established to implement some of the low-hanging fruits from the services sector plan. The priority sectors to be affected are the creative industry, the ICT, the spa and wellness, and professional business services. The consultants are expected to be on board by mid-May 2016, and we are expected to have all the stakeholders on board so that we can successfully implement this project.
Director of the National Qualifications Department, Dwight Lewis, noted that the CSME Standby Facility project aims at enhancing the capacity of Vincentian nationals so that they take great advantage of provisions under the CSME. Outlining some of the objectives of the project, he added that agencies involved in the process of certification will also see major improvements with the implementation of the project through the work of consultancies.
We are in the process of developing curriculum for the different occupational areas offered at the various training institutions. We are currently engaged in the process of PLAR as well. That's prior learning assessment recognition. That's a process in which we'll be able to certify skilled workers without having them going back to a particular institution. We can certify their prior learning and skills on the job. We want to encourage from the TVET end broader participation in TVET programs as it relates to the issue of gender. Legislative drafting consultant. Now, the idea is to strengthen the legislation that established the accreditation board. Of course, we recognize that there are some gaps in the legislation, hence this consultancy would help to strengthen the existing legislation.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nathaniel Williams, has noted that there is need for persons to be on the move to get both projects fully implemented and in turn gain benefits for the Vincentian economy and nationals. He also pledged his commitment along with that of his ministry to seeing that maximum benefits are reaped from both the EPA and the CSME projects.
I want to say to the Ministry of Education, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade and Regional Integration, and to all the civil servants and public servants here, we have a job to do. Let's roll up our sleeves, begin to work harder and faster and smarter, because the funds which are available to us may not be all the funds. It is possible that if we implement properly and efficiently, there may be funds available for us to fill the gaps which we are recognizing as we implement the project. St. Vincent is diversifying around agriculture, and services is taking a prominent role. Our airport is about to be opened very soon. Airport is an output. We need outcome.
Now in the final stages of the 2016 program, the young leaders of the J.P. Eustace Memorial Secondary School are looking back on the progress made under the overarching theme, Me, You, We, a shared vision for a better society. Speaking to SVGTV News earlier today, the students highlighted some of the activities held which focused on health-related issues.
We have choose our subtopic as You plus Me equal awesome. The acronym for awesome is a well environment and society obviously matters to everyone. We have broken down health into 4 main aspects: mental, personal, social, and environmental. Keeping those aspects in mind, we have undergone some activities to educate and notify everyone about the aspects of health.
So far we went to different primary schools in town to talk about health, and we did a cleanup on the beach of Edinburgh so that the environment could be more clean and healthy, so nobody will get sick or anything like that.